going on YouTube? We back with another banger video, and today we're back with another reaction, another banger. Today we reacting to why Naruto. My bad. I'm gonna keep that in there. But we are reacting to why Boruto villains feel worse than Naruto. Let's get straight on into it.
I'm sorry, but Naruto is still better than Boruto. Now that has the capacity to change. Two Blue Vortex is better than part 1 of Boruto. There is positive change actively happening in the Boruto manga, mostly surrounding Boruto's antagonists.
I love his little, who is that, Hello Kitty?
I had to pick one category where Naruto very easily clears Boruto as a story. I would say it's Naruto's antagonists. Naruto's antagonists felt like people, unique and different people, while Boruto's antagonists unfortunately largely feel like functions that the story needs. And while that might sound a little bit harsh, really, when you look back at Naruto and look back at the antagonists, they're the most compelling characters in the story. They weren't just strong, they didn't just look cool, they came from different places. They were broken by different world events that felt tied into the fabric of Naruto's universe. And every single one of them came to a completely different conclusion about the shinobi world they were living in. And this is why every villain and every arc, and even within the confines of villain groups, felt so distinct from each other. There was ample opportunity for every single member of the Akatsuki to feel like a copy and paste version of each other. And yet within the confines of the Akatsuki, we see so much diversity that people think up theories like—
they have so many different personalities and they could not work together. I feel like that's what made it, like, they, even though that they worked in twos, if they worked as a group, nothing would have got done. So I don't know. It's just the storyline with the Akatsuki just means a lot to me for some reason. They're my favorite villains in anything, and that would never change.
Every single member of the Akatsuki was meant to represent a different reason that people go to war. This is why Zabuza feels nothing like Gaara, and why Gaara feels nothing like Orochimaru, and why Orochimaru feels nothing like Pain. Why Pain doesn't feel like Obito, even though the both of them were trying to accomplish the same thing, and why Obito doesn't feel like Madara when they were trying to accomplish the same thing. And once you compare these antagonists from Naruto, their backstories, what they tried to accomplish, and how they tried to accomplish it, to the antagonists of Boruto, well, the gap begins to get a little obvious, because Boruto's core antagonists all kind of blend together. They all come from the same place, they all have the same motivation, they're all trying to accomplish the same thing, and they all have the same reason for doing it. However, this video isn't just me taking a shot at Boruto and its antagonists. No, the reason I'm making today's video is because this long, dry streak of relatively boring antagonists might be over, as Jura, truly, to me, is Boruto's first interesting antagonist. But what separates him from the pack of Boruto antagonists? And what is Ikimoto taking from Naruto to improve Boruto's writing? Well, today we're going to be answering those questions and a whole lot more, because today we're talking the real reason Naruto's antagonists are better than Boruto's. But before we get to comparing aliens to humans, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you guys are looking for one additional NC Hammer 23 video every single week, you can go ahead and find my Naruto reaction series using the fourth wall link in the description below. Orochimaru versus Hiruzen is video. I'd like to say that Boruto's antagonist being inherently worse than Naruto's antagonist isn't necessarily Ikimoto or even Boruto's fault. Unfortunately, Boruto was kind of doomed to have boring antagonists from the second that the war arc started. See, because when you are—
I ain't gonna lie, I wish they would have, instead of doing Boruto, they could have still did Boruto later on, but I wish they would have went back in time and did like a past generations to explain how did all of these events lead up. I know we got backstories and all of that in Boruto, but there's key factors that we was missing. You know, like Hashirama, like his mentor, his dad or whatever, his clan. Like, there was so many fights that we just never got to see. And, you know, that really upsets me a lot because, like, yeah, they went to Boruto, they wanted to move forward and explain everything about, like, after the war, which makes perfect sense. But I feel like they should have went back first. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments.
A sequel story to a story that ends defeating an alien from a different universe trying to eat your entire planet. Well, unfortunately, the antagonists that you have to introduce are gonna have to one-up that antagonist, that final antagonist to a 700 chapter long story. Because now that you've spent 700 chapters making every character in the story a legitimate planet buster, at least every important character that is, anything less than an antagonist who threatens the entire Earth, well, unfortunately, isn't gonna have the scale to be relevant in Boruto as a story.
Yeah, it's not.
But that obviously
system's
doesn't change
messed
the
up.
fact that Boruto's antagonists are just inherently more
Power
boring
scaling,
than
my bad.
Naruto antagonists. And a lot of that comes from distinction. See, unfortunately, Boruto's story continually gave us antagonists that felt as though they were beginning to blend together. We were kind of, for a long time, getting the Otsutsuki of the week. Whether that was Kaguya, Kinshiki, Momoshiki, Ishiki, or any of the people that existed below Ishiki. Everybody had Otsutsuki abilities and Otsutsuki motivations. Consume, evolve, harvest, repeat, blah, blah, blah. The names change, the powers change, the rankings change, but the motivation for all of these antagonists starts to feel exactly the same, because fundamentally it is. Every antagonist wants to accomplish exactly what Kaguya was trying to accomplish over the 700 chapters of the war arc. I know it wasn't 700 chapters, it just felt like that. Here's my 10 tails. I'm either going to feed an Otsutsuki to it or not. That 10 tails is going to turn into a divine tree, it's going to create a chocolate fruit, I'm going to eat it, and Earth is going to go kaput. And while that idea is fun the first time you do it, or maybe even the second time you do it, by the time you get to the third time you do it, it starts to feel less like different antagonists trying to accomplish their own fun thing, and more like different branches of—
I wish they would have had different motives. Like, I don't know. I get what they're doing. I get they're trying to continue the plan that they leader did and with all of that, you know. But I wish they would have had like different plans.
the same template. But that right there is why Jura stands out so much as an antagonist. Because Jura feels like the first Boruto villain in so long where I'm not just thinking to myself, I wonder how strong this guy is. I'm asking myself questions about who Jura is as a person. And that's important because that's what Naruto used to do naturally. Take basically the first antagonist of the entire story of Naruto, Zabuza, for example. What makes Zabuza compelling is, well, yes, his design was cool and he had a big old sword. What actually made him compelling was his highly human backstory. Zabuza, the demon of the Blood Mist Village. A child who killed 100 other students to graduate from the Shinobi Academy. A child who seemed as though he would grow up to represent all of the values of the Blood Mist Village. I mean, after all, he was known as the demon of the Blood Mist Village, known for killing his own peers. And yet, as Zabuza, the person who should be as bought into the Blood Mist Village as anybody who lived there, began to get disenfranchised with the bloody way of his home village. And thus he rebelled against that system, starting a coup to oust the bloody Mizukage. However, that coup failed. And thus, for the high crime of trying to change his village for the better, he was driven out, turned into a rogue ninja, perpetually hunted down by the Anbu of his nation, and turned exactly into what he hated. A cold, unfeeling weapon that would cut down anybody and anything for a certain price. And yet under all of that cruelty that we meet Zabuza carrying around with him is at his core a man who tried to make the world a better place. And that's displayed through his connection to Haku. Zabuza is meant to represent the fact that sometimes good ambition fails in the face of overwhelming evil power, and how even the strong amongst us can give in to our weakest feelings. But Zabuza's origin story, his motivation, the conclusion to his character arc are all distinctly different than Orochimaru's, who's fundamentally the next big villain introduced in the story. See, because while there are some similarities between Orochimaru and Zabuza's story, as Orochimaru originally began his career as a ninja fighting for Konoha, and presumably for all the right reasons, upon seeing his student Naoki die, Orochimaru saw fragility up close. He saw how easy it was for dreams to disappear the second somebody's heart stops beating. Orochimaru lived through two incredibly bloody wars. They dealt with loss every single day. And rather than trying to focus on the human aspect,
let's not forget he killed the Hokage, you know, and he's still walking free in Boruto. You can't kill him, but like, come on, man. Like, I get he's a great scientist and all of that, but why is he still walking free?
Aspects of their lives and become more in touch with the people around them, Orochimaru went the other way. Instead of appreciating life, Orochimaru decided to erase the concept of death. And thus his experimentations, his body hopping, his hyperfixation on the young and powerful, all of it came from a character who looked at the concept of mortality and decided he would rather violate the laws of nature than ever give in to it. And that right there, the difference between Zabuza and Orochimaru is already more villain distinction than we see from really any two to antagonists in Boruto. But the list goes on. Look at Nagato,
Nagato.
another character, another antagonist built around the concept of loss, but a character who is 100% identifiably distinct from either Zabuza or Orochimaru. Nagato's parents were doctors trying to help a war-torn area who are killed by Leaf Shinobi in front of Nagato. And yet after training with Jiraiya, another Leaf Shinobi, Nagato dedicated his life to achieving peace, unifying the Hidden Rain village so that small villages across the ninja continent would no longer be trampled on by larger shinobi states. Those larger shinobi states continued to push at him until eventually one of his best friends was taken by him through the combined forces of Danzo and Hanzo. And therefore, even though Nagato believed he was trying to create a more peaceful world, it became apparent to him that the world didn't care about the peace he was trying to create. Turning the other cheek was no longer an option if the world was just gonna pickpocket you the second you stopped looking at them. He didn't arrive to this conclusion because he was born evil or because his clan told him to take over the world. He arrived at this conclusion because the world taught him that pain was the only universal language. So when he destroys Konoha, kills Kakashi, nails Hinata to the ground, it's not random, it's not predestined.
Like
it was the final act of a worldview in the hands of somebody uniquely powerful, warped by trauma and pain. Nagato gave
exactly, like it's not just he's a villain doing this for the love of the game. He's doing this because he feels like it's completely right. And when Naruto comes to, fight him and try to stop him, instead of Naruto just fighting him, he actually talks to him and makes him understand what are you doing is wrong. And we could all work this out. And he brought everybody back. Like, it's just the little stuff like that that really just matters,
Gave the world the chance to prove him wrong. And it didn't. So he decided to do to the world what it had done to him. Because if everybody had lost something or somebody, they all had something to relate to each other with. And honestly, it's around this time when the Akatsuki presents itself as the antagonist core of Shippuden that the antagonist writing of Naruto hits its stride. Because Kishimoto as an author and Naruto as a story had every opportunity to make these.
Who's your favorite Akatsuki member? Who's your favorite Akatsuki member? If y'all watch Naruto, who's your favorite Akatsuki member? Mine would probably be Pain and Itachi.
9 or 10 people who all had the same motivation, which was the Eye of the Moon plan, become hollow copies of each other. And well, yes, certain members of the Akatsuki are substantially better written than other members of the Akatsuki. It doesn't matter how much you like or dislike certain individuals in the Akatsuki, all of them feel unique, even at the very top. Yes, Nagato is one of the leaders of the Akatsuki, but so is Obito. And even though both Obito and Nagato exist at the upper echelons of the Akatsuki, Obito feels nothing like Nagato. See, like Nagato, Obito is formed into a villain because of loss, because of the broken shinobi system. But he's not Nagato 2.0, and Nagato is not Obito 2.0. Well, there are definitive similarities in their backstory. That is to say that both of them started as young, bright-eyed, optimistic ninja, trained by the elites of Konoha to reach the highest heights of power, who at their most emotionally vulnerable moments were manipulated by those more powerful than them, as Obito was manipulated by Madara into watching Kakashi kill Rin, in the same way that Nagato was forced to kill Yahiko by Hanzo and Danzo. Obito comes to a substantially different conclusion than Nagato does. See, Nagato wants to unify the world through pain. Nagato understands what he feels, and he acknowledges that the shinobi system is broken, but he believes he has a fix to it. But Obito, rather appropriately,
in my opinion though, with the shinobi system, it was all of the Hidden Leaf fault. It was not even the Hidden Leaf. It was the old people that were in the Hidden Leaf. They was doing all the calls, like the people with Danzo, the higher chairman in the Leaf. It was really all their fault. They really did everything. Like, obviously other villages did stuff too, but the Hidden Leaf was the main culprits. Like, all of the main villains really came from the Hidden Leaf besides Nagato, for real.
He wants to put a mask on the world. Obito believes that the shinobi system is broken, but he doesn't want to fix it. He wants to escape it. He wants to overwrite the world because he's lost his ability to accept it. And this is why, even though Nagato and Obito are both trying to accomplish the infinite Tsukiyomi, it's so much more clearly tied to Obito than it is to Nagato. Oh, Nick, well then what about Obito and Madara? They're pretty much identical, right? Well, I mean, like, in some ways, yes, but in other ways, no. Yeah, obviously, Obito and Madara kind of have the same motivation for trying to pull off infinite Tsukiyomi. Madara lived an entire life steeped in the concept of war. He loses 4 brothers over the Warring States period.
Yeah.
And even when he finds
Can't really
another
blame
brother in
Madara.
Hashirama and starts Konoha with him, he falls into the shadow of Hashirama when everybody in Konoha decides that he's better suited for the position of Hokage. And thus, even though Madara struggled against the Senju until the very final moment, even when he did the thing that he never really wanted to do, which was forgiving Tobirama and Hashirama and finding peace between clans, he still lived with perpetual fear that the Senju were going to push the Uchiha down further and further and further until their strength was no longer recognizable. So does Madara want
Blame
to pull off
Tobirama
Infinite
for that.
Tsukiyomi because he believes the world is broken and wants to put a blanket over it with Infinite Tsukiyomi? No. See, yes, Obito's motivation for Infinite Tsukiyomi is hiding from the world that has taken so much from him. And while Madara might say that he's trying to give everybody in the ninja world their own version of heaven, and that's his reason for launching Infinite Tsukiyomi, in actuality, the reason that Madara launches Infinite Tsukiyomi is because he wants to control the world that he hasn't been able to. See, Madara deludes himself with the idea that he's doing what's best for everybody, when in actuality, it's just Madara's ego that's told him that the world is his to control.
Yeah,
And
Madara
this is
was-
what Naruto understood.
I don't know. Naruto was. I don't know. Madara was just. He was a great villain, great antagonist, but he had a horrible life in the world of Naruto, man. Like, I don't know. I
Good
mean, like
villains are
all
not-
of them really did, but Madara just.
Just different in
I
the
can't even say
abilities
nothing
they
about it.
use and how they look. They're different in their backstories. They're different in the way that they hurt. They're different in the way they've internalized the wounds of the outside world. And this is why Naruto is such a greater villain range than Boruto. Sasori is obsessed with puppets and permanence because of the loss of his parents. Deidara turns battle into art because his ego needs destruction to mean something. Hidan represents dangerous religious fanaticism. Kakuzu represents how, with a long life, people tend to water everything down around them to whether or not it'll make their money or whether it's useful to them. They're not all the same people wearing different cloaks. They're all different people wearing the same cloaks. And Boruto hasn't done nearly enough of that. And I think the
At
reason
all.
why they haven't done nearly enough of that is relatively obvious. Boruto keeps escalating its story into Otsutsuki-centric storylines.
They
And
need to
that-
stop.
It comes with a villain bottleneck. Because once everybody starts living under the same big cosmic framework, once everyone starts adhering to the same harvest the planet, eat the fruit, evolve, and move on rhetoric, the individuality of your antagonists collapse. And like we've already said, antagonists can have the same motivations. They can have the same end goal in mind. The entirety of the Akatsuki had the same end goal in mind. What matters is why they want to do that thing. And none of the antagonists in Boruto, up until Jura, arrive on there, at least from the perspective of humans, villainy. And that's the problem, because if for several antagonists in a row, their motivation is, I'm an Otsutsuki, this is what we do. No matter how powerful they are, how much more dangerous they are than the last antagonist that we met, they're gonna leave less of an impression than substantially weaker antagonists like Zabuza or Orochimaru or Nagato. In 20 years, what antagonists are people gonna be talking about? Is it going to be Jigen or Ishiki or Obito and Madara? And this is why Boruto's villains often get reduced to just scaling conversations. Because Boruto as a story doesn't give its characters enough motivational distinction to warrant any other kind.
But even with talking about like the power scaling and all that, it's hard for Boruto. Like, yes, they didn't have to immediately introduce, you know, the members and stuff of the clan, but at the same time, they kind of did. It's hard to say anything about the power scaling because yes, they're strong, but you got Naruto that achieved his goal in Naruto Shippuden. Then you got Boruto turn. Who was he supposed to fight? I mean, yeah, you got regular villains and stuff that could have had storylines, but eventually he would have still had to go fight, you know, them. So I don't know.
Of conversation. But that is why
time
Jura
skip
is
is perfect,
exciting.
though.
Because Jura doesn't feel like some different branch off the same villain tree. All puns intended. He's curious about humanity. He doesn't want to destroy Konoha. He's a divine tree actively fighting off his own primal urges because he wants to continue existing. And while yes, he's more powerful than any antagonist we've seen up until this moment, and yes, as the divine tree, his true ultimate end goal will probably be the destruction of humanity. He's not doing it because he wants to consume a chakra fruit. He's not not doing it because he's an Otsutsuki and that's what they do. He's doing it because he genuinely believes he's a superior form of being, a being devoid of needless emotion that has the ability to evolve humanity. And thus he feels like somebody processing the world in his own way. And that
His
one
cat just
change
fell in the background.
immediately makes him more interesting.
dog.
Because right now, what we're not talking about is how much damage Jura can do. We're talking about how he thinks, what he wants, how he carries himself through Boruto as a story. And that is Naruto villain territory. That is what Naruto used to be great at. We can sit here as Boruto readers and watch with intrigue as this being of ultimate
I ain't
power
gonna lie, though.
interacts with the
One thing I can say about Boruto is that their character designs are amazing. I love their character designs.
world for the first ever
They did do a good job, like with the villains and stuff. They did do a good job, like after the time skip. I mean,
time. We can engage in the irony of the sentient divine tree living a more human life than some of the people we know. Jura consumes as much literature as he can. He studies humanity. He appreciates architecture. There's this massive separation between what Jura wants and how he's trying to achieve it. There's a dichotomy inside of Jura that makes Jura openly antagonistic towards Konoha as he wants to consume Himawari, but also Jura's own internal dialogue that tells him he shouldn't give in to his most basal and primal nature. And the beautiful irony of all of it is that while Jura says that he doesn't want to consume Boruto because he wants to keep on going, a rejection of the divine tree inside of him, Jura believes that he won't be able to find his own identity until he consumes the person that his body is telling him to eat in Himawari. And while Jura barring all of the Shinju from destroying Konoha might just seem as though it's about plot convenience, this one simple rule hammers home the idea that Jura is distinctly different from all the other antagonists of Boruto. Destruction is not his goal. Evolution is. See, Naruto villains were dangerous because they had power. Yeah, but they were also memorable because they had perspective. Their backstories shaped their ideologies. There was a clear line between the person that they were and the person that they currently are. And while we didn't agree with their actions, we can understand why they
Gaara technically was a villain. I forgot about that. Obviously, he's not anymore, but like I forgot he was a villain.
do them based off the person we were being shown. And Boruto too often has skipped that middle layer. Their villains were dangerous, and thus they created conflict, and that was it. Too many of Boruto's villains jumped straight to a catastrophic threat, with no personal distinction about how they got there, or why they believe what they believe beyond this is what my kind does. See, another universe that could have this problem, but doesn't, is Invincible, as the Otsutsuki are effectively the Viltrumites. However, by Invincible, taking time to dive into the history of planet Viltrum and talk about the Scourge virus and talk about Thrag, the Great Betrayer, and the coalition of planets, the idea of why Viltrumites seem so desperate to take over other planets or interbreed with other species begins to make a lot of sense.
They need
and that's just not
they need to keep going and like. Yeah, I get what he's saying, though.
Something we've gotten from the Otsutsuki clan. We know they exist, we know that they're in an infinite chase to be as powerful as possible, but that's basically it. And that's why, to me, at least, Jura feels like hope. Because if Jura is Boruto is a story of remembering that villains need their own biographies, their own internal logic, and their own narrative lane, then Boruto is improving in a way that Naruto has been whooping it for years. So yes, I absolutely think that Naruto's villains are better than Boruto's. Not just because I have nostalgia or because Naruto's villains were iconic, but because they were actually different from each other in the way that mattered most. Different lives, different losses, different philosophies, and different motivations. But Jura feels like Boruto remembering a lesson they learned years ago. And if Boruto continues to pull at the string of that lesson from years bygone, well, then it has an infinitely better chance of being talked about as positively as Naruto. But I'm curious to hear from you guys. Do you...
Man, okay, with watching this video and understanding more and more about the villains and stuff of compared from Naruto and Boruto, I think Boruto has the chance that we are, as Naruto fans, we still love Boruto, but after the time skip, I ain't gonna lie, I don't know, bro. With the anime, they need to just hurry up and get to the time skip, because I heard the time skip is amazing, but like that's gonna take a whole year to get animated or next season or whatever. But Boruto, as I'm watching it for the second time with my girlfriend, and she's not interested into it as much as she was with Naruto, and that's clearly a reason, because the villains and the story, and it just takes so long to get to the main pacing. And yeah, like if you're a Naruto fan, you're going to want to watch Boruto, but it's so hard to stay into it, and I completely understand why. And with me even watching it for the second time, me rewatching it, I can't really stay invested into it again. Like it's just, I don't know, I'm not as naive as I once was when I first watched it, I guess you could say. But man, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button. On to the next video. Universal out.